I think we've had some great conversations today, and I'm incredibly excited about our next speaker, who I know will not only add spark to our conversation, I am certain he will inspire us. We are thrilled to have Tim Cook here with us today. Now, you know him best as Apple CEO, a role he has held for the past 7 years. But Tim doesn't just run an amazing company. He has shown us repeatedly what amazing leadership looks like. Tim has been nothing short of courageous in how outspoken he has been on social issues. It's not normally what you see from chief executives. It's so much easier to avoid anything controversial for fear it might cost you business. Tim just hasn't followed that template. He took one of the most recognizable companies, one of the world's greatest brands, and reshaped how it views social responsibility, becoming a model for others worldwide. Tim has shown that a company can respect the values of its consumers and honor them by designing products that reflect their values and lead from the boardroom, all while continuing to function as one of the most successful and profitable companies in history. It's clear that Tim has followed his own moral compass. We advocate for human rights, he recently said, because Apple has always been about making products for everyone. And arguably, if people are treated as second-class citizens in any part of the world, then it's kind of hard, he said, kind of hard to accomplish that objective. Tim has also shown leadership in tackling consequential issues that are core to ADL's global mission in fighting anti-Semitism and hate in all its forms. On issues like immigration, LGBTQ rights, to online hate, and civil rights. Let me just give you a few examples. Apple was the first company to remove Alex Jones's hateful anti-government conspiratorial rants from their platform. And other tech companies, as we know, followed their lead. Tim has advocated for equal treatment for all and has been steadfast in his pursuit of LGBTQ rights. He has been outspoken about the current administration's immigration policy, clearly calling it inhumane. He encouraged his co-workers to give to charitable organizations in their community, and he initiated a program at Apple to match those employee donations. When he saw racism, he told his employees that he would not stand for it. Racism does not represent our values, he said. It is, quote, not a message we would ever want to deliver to a customer or hear ourselves. And after the white supremacist violence in Charlottesville last year, Tim spoke out forcefully and without hesitation. He stated clearly and publicly that no one should equivocate about neo-Nazis. We've seen the terror of white supremacy and racist violence before, Tim said. It's a moral issue, an affront to America, and we must all stand against it. Apple then donated money to help ADL and other human rights groups fight hate. He turned what was a horrific event into an occasion for something good. That is the mark he is leaving. And that's why it's truly an honor and a privilege as ADL CEO for me to present Tim Cook with ADL's first Courage Against Hate Award. Tim, we are grateful for your leadership, your example, and we are thrilled that you have made time to join us here at Never Is Now. I am so excited to share this inaugural award with you in recognition that all you have done. Welcome, Tim Cook. The design of this award is called Partnership, and it reminds me of the Bridge of Hope we have crossing the A&R logo. We at the ADL are all grateful for your leadership and partnership. Tim, please join me in accepting this award, and everyone, let's congratulate Tim Cook.
Thank you so much. I'm honored by the kind words of Jonathan and by the warm welcome of the entire ADL family here today, and I am humbled by this award. I accept it not as a recognition of what we at Apple have done, but as a reminder of what we still have to do. It is also no small honor or responsibility to speak to this organization at this moment, at the end of a year that has been marked by both fear and hope. This year, we've seen the stubborn and constant evils of anti-Semitism, violence, and hate darken the streets of Pittsburgh and so many other places. Yet at the same time, we see more and more people opening their eyes and rising to their feet and speaking out in defense of a society where we are all bound together by the values we have in common. I was recently in Brussels, where I heard a speech by an Irish writer named Maria Farrell. Something she said has stuck with me. Despair is unethical, she declared. We have a duty to hope. I'd simply add that if we feel moved by this hope, then we have a duty to heal the world. Jonathan, you spoke very kindly about what we at Apple do to shape this better future. But I want to say a bit about why we do it. This may sound simple, but it's not said often enough. Apple is a technology company, but we never forget that the devices we make are imagined by human minds, built by human hands, and are meant to improve human lives. I sometimes say that I worry less about computers that think like people and more about people that think like computers. Without values or compassion, without concern for consequences. And so we try to stay rooted and to keep our devices connected to the humanity that makes us, us. We do that in many ways. One of the most important is how we honor a teaching that can be found in Judaism, but is shared across all faiths and traditions. It's a lesson that was carried forward by the late Elie Wiesel. May his memory be a blessing. It's a lesson put into practice by America's Muslim community, who raised thousands for the victims of the Tree of Life killings. Lo ta'amod al-dam re'eka. Do not be indifferent to the bloodshed of your fellow man. Do not be indifferent. This mandate moves us to speak up for immigrants and for those who seek opportunity in the United States. We do it not only because their individual dignity, creativity, and ingenuity have the power to make this country an even better place, but because our own humanity commands us to welcome those who need welcome. It moves us to speak up for the LGBTQ community, for those whose differences can make them a target for violence and scorn. We do so not only because these unique and uncommon perspectives can open our eyes to new ways of thinking, but because our own dignity moves us to see the dignity in others. Perhaps most importantly, it drives us not to be bystanders as hate tries to make its headquarters in the digital world. At Apple, we believe that technology needs to have a clear point of view on this challenge. There is no time to get tied up in knots. That's why we only have one message for those who seek to push hate, division, and violence. You have no place on our platforms. You have no home here. From the earliest days of iTunes to Apple Music today, we have always prohibited music with a message of white supremacy. Why? Because it's the right thing to do. And as we showed this year, we won't give a platform to violent conspiracy theorists on the App Store. Why? Because it's the right thing to do. My friends, if we can't be clear on moral questions like these, then we've got big problems. At Apple, we are not afraid to say that our values drive our curation decisions. And why should we be? Doing what's right, creating experiences free from violence and hate, experiences that empower creativity and new ideas, is what our customers want us to do. Technology should be about human potential. It should be about optimism. And we believe the future should belong to those who use technology to build a better, more inclusive, and more hopeful world. After all, history is full of examples of what can happen when those with power and those who ought to have good judgment instead look the other way. I believe the most sacred thing that each of us is given is our judgment, our morality, our own innate desire to separate right from wrong. Choosing to set that responsibility aside at a moment of trial is a sin. We as individuals have the power to know and feel and act, and we ought to use it. That's a lesson that Ruth Lansing knows well. Ruth just turned 100 on November 13th. She was recently interviewed by the BBC for a more solemn occasion, the 80th anniversary of Kristallnacht, an event she witnessed firsthand while visiting Dusseldorf around her 20th birthday. She remembers the shattered windows, the fine china and furniture thrown into the streets, the businesses smashed, the curses of the mob. At a moment when the struggle against hate has renewed importance, the BBC asked Ruth if she had something to say to the world to mark her 100th birthday. "Yes, I do have a message," she said. "We only have one life, so why not use it to make the world a better place?" You might know the phrase, Deus ex machina, God from the machine. For those who don't, it's an idea that started as a bit of an inside joke among the ancient Greek playwrights. Basically, it's a critique of a bad habit. These playwrights like to get their characters into impossibly perilous situations and then rescue them at the last minute by some miraculous twist in the story. Often the actors were even physically hoisted out of danger by a crane or some other elaborate machine. In other words, Deus ex machina is how the first movie critics accused the first directors of using special effects to cover up lazy screenwriting. But this idea of God from the machine has stayed with us through the ages because it's so comforting. Just when the world seems to be getting more dangerous, just when it seems like the challenges may be greater than our ability to solve them, it's reassuring to think that some technological marvel, some creation of our own hands, will solve the problem for us. But what I admire so much about the ADL is that your entire history provides a lesson here. If the machines we build are going to help us solve the world's problems, then the God part, that decency, mercy, and humanity, is going to have to come from all of us. After all, we only have one life, so why not use it to make the world a better place? Thank you so much for this award, but more importantly, thank you for your work. We stand on your shoulders. We are inspired by your legacy. We are honored to be your partners. And we will never stop working to drive out fear with the hope of a better tomorrow. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Wasn't that terrific?